Alright, so previously I was asked to do a video that shows how I do doubles. In the scenario we have today, I've already got a vehicle on the bed. I'm going to be towing this one behind with the wheel lift here. This is a Kia Optima, and I'm just going to roll you through the process of how I do that. Now, one thing about doing this procedure is I'm going to tell you that I'm going to do it the way that I was trained. And I say it like that because a lot of guys think that they know the way is right or wrong. You know, you shouldn't do it this way, you should do it that way, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I'm of the opinion that as you go along, as a tow driver, car hauler, whatever the case may be, that you got to do things according to the way you're trained and the way you learn, because those are two different things. Being trained and learning are a quite different process. So I'm going to show you how I do it the way that I was trained. It may be right, it may be wrong to some, but it's right for me because it's worked every single time. Now, one thing to understand about using a wheel lift on a flatbed as opposed to a traditional wheel lift is on a traditional wheel lift you've got two controls for your arm that goes up and down. One brings it down, one levels it out, but on a flatbed wheel lift it's self-leveling. It's going to level itself out every time. So we're just going to start out here by bringing it down to level, and then I'm going to extend it out all the way, like so. But then I'm going to bring it back in about 1 foot or so, just a little bit, because I don't want a whole lot of stress placed on this boom arm with all the weight being on the back. You bring it in a little bit, you get a little more stability, and then you're able to do a much better job. Now in this situation, of course, we're going to extend our arms out. I always extend out just a little bit, just enough for the wheelbase where I think it's going to be according to how it looks coming in, maybe in just a bit, and then I'll make an adjustment. Now this car runs, so what I'll normally do is I just drive it right up to the wheel lift and up until it nudges. Now if your car doesn't run, you can still do this the same way. You're just going to want to get in this position. You'll be a little closer to the car, get in this position, and then just drive backwards until you feel that little tiny bump. No speed, no gas, just put it in reverse, ride the brake, feel that little nudge, make sure that your boom is dragging the ground a little bit, at least skimming it, because you don't want to take out any bumpers. Another thing I always do is I check the exhaust on the back to make sure it's not low hanging, and then we go from there. So with that in mind, I'm going to be aiming dead center for this port right here because it's dead center with the boom arm, and we'll go from there. So as you can see, it's a little left here, but over on this side, it's pretty perfect. So I'm gonna make a slight adjustment and get it to where it needs to be. Alright, so now I've got both of them where I want them to be. I'm going to pull out my L arms and put them in place. Same thing with the L-arms. You want a space that's going to carriage the wheel, but is also going to let the wheel stay in place. On the back of your L-arms, there's going to be some holes here that you can actually get your finger in. Once you see the first hole on a normal basis, you want to put your lock in place and then adjust it to where it locks in. Then you want to match up your other side the same way. Now, if you were on a traditional wheel lift, you wouldn't be stepping over that because you got a big old boom arm. You're going to want to put that arm all the way up, you know, unless you want to wake up on the pavement wondering how you got there, because you're going to be bonking your head. One thing that I'm a big culprit of doing is letting my lock hit the ground. So with this L-arm in place and the other L-arm locked, I'm just going to raise it up and readjust that lock. That way I make sure that it's secured. This is a procedure where you want to take your time and do it right. There's no reason to rush through it. When it's a little loose, I'm going to bonk it into place. Measure my distances, and they both seem all right. Next thing I do is I'm going to raise it all the way up. And you say, oh, you shouldn't raise it all the way up. Well, there's a reason I'm doing that. It's because I use safety chains, and it makes it a lot easier to hook up the safety chains when you do that. So for my safety chains, I put them up over the arm, around the back of the control arm, snap it in, and there you go. Now some guys like to use these hooks. I don't, because of flexibility. I like a nice tight fit. That's just me. Always around the control arm, never the tie rod or any other piece. Now that you got your chains hooked up, you're going to want to position the car at the level in which you're going to want to tow it. So we're going to bring it down to about right there. The good rule of thumb is, for me, is that the hood should match the bed. That way, if you get any tight turns or anything, you don't risk smashing parts and grills and stuff into the bed. But also, it's high enough up off the ground to where if you hit a dip, it's not going to drag the car out, right? Then, with your safety chains, it's just a matter of getting them to a point where you can step on them and they touch the ground, but then they pop back up. So you're just going to get them to a spot to where it feels comfortable. Maybe one less on this. And that way when you step on it, it touches the ground, but it's not dragging the ground in transit. That's going to be pretty good for me there. And then I'll just do the same thing over on this side. When you get close, you want to do one at a time. And I'm pretty comfortable right there with that. So now chains are in place. I've got it at the level I want it to be at. It's time to put your wheel lift straps on. Another thing that you never want to forget is your tow mate. Make sure that it is operational and lights up. There we go. when you go to put this bad boy on, you don't want to put it up too high, you don't want to put it too low. Right there on the back bumper, so that when the vehicle's behind you, they can see it. Now, it seems like every guy has a different way that they do their wheel lift straps. I'm just going to show you the way that I do it, according to the method in which I was taught to do it, and that is forward backwards. Some guys you'll see do a V down to the ratchet, and that's fine. You can do a V down to the ratchet, but I prefer the way I was taught, and I've never had an issue with it, which is basically the forwards backwards method. And what you're going to do is just get your loop around, and if you use an 8-point tie down system on a normal basis, it's basically the same concept, and you can treat your loop as the dog bone. And then what I do is ring it on the tire, bring it back to the ratchet, and then ratchet it down. Just enough so that you see a slight indentation. The ring's on the tire, not on the rim. Nothing's being damaged. Everything's being held down. You don't want to hug the tire. You want to force the tire to be held to the L-arm. So since I did back on this side, I'll do front on the other side. So again, I've got a slight indentation, slight bubble, rings on the tire, everything's tight where it should be, holding the tire down, and that does it for the straps. Straps and chains, got it at a good level. The last thing I want to do is check and make sure that the parking brake is not on. This model features an electronic parking brake. Going to get in, start it up, make sure that that parking brake is not, no park light or anything's on, doesn't look like it, so we are good to go. Other guys will also take their boom in and out to make sure that the back wheels roll, and I unfortunately cannot do that because the way my boom's designed on this particular bed, this bed was taken off of a different truck and then a different truck and then transplanted to me, and in the process of that, the boom doesn't want to cooperate in that way when it has weight on it. So I can't do that, but that is a good pro tip for you. Just take your boom in and out a couple times, make sure your back tires are rolling. But for now, that is about it. That is how I do doubles when I run them, and you know, it's a good procedure. It's worked for me for many years, and I've never had any issues or problems. So there we go. Thanks for watching. You can like, share, subscribe, or don't. That's fine with me. I just enjoy making the videos, sharing my knowledge, having fun, and I appreciate all of the great interactions that I have had with everybody, leaving comments and stuff, and turn your box, and that's about it. So until I make another one, I will see you next time. Oh, and one last thing, you may want to check out your local regulations, but I'm pretty sure that in most cases when you're doing a double or anything on your wheel lift, you have to have your beacons and flashers going. So keep that in mind, and furthermore, it's just a good rule of safety. You can never be too safe in this job.